Leaders of Tomorrow, India's only daily television platform for small businesses. We bring you the right information to empower you, the MSME entrepreneur. Tonight on the show, we're talking about technology and technology as it's affecting you, the small business entrepreneur. Tonight, we're bringing you a tech masterclass that I did with experts from the field of AI, virtual technology, chatbots, etc. Take a listen to what they had to say about how businesses should and can embrace future technologies. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time today in this tech masterclass that we're calling it, to really help our viewers understand what they should know about future technologies, whether it's blockchain, AI, virtual reality, etc., and whether they're really future if you look at what's perhaps happening across the globe. So thank you for your time. Let me first start by asking you, Jesse, if you can talk to our viewers, very briefly describe what your company does.
So my company is a company called MonetaGo. We are a blockchain solutions provider. We've been doing work here in India for the last few years, working with financial institutions and the Reserve Bank in some instances, to help figure out where this technology can be applicable within the financial services space. There's a lot of noise from the government as well about potentially using it in government services, which we see strong potential, but right now we've been primarily focused on deploying solutions that are based on this new technology that improve customer services, that improve the speed of transactions, and then also provide a better sort of auditability and a platform for even competitors in some instances to be able to communicate and work with each other.
Sure.
Hi, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me here. We're a company called Haptik. So Haptik is basically a company that specializes in building chatbots. The way we approach it is, we help multiple different companies help engage and monetize their customer base by providing different conversational AI solutions. So companies can use our solutions for automating customer support, for lead generation. We also have utility for consumers where you can call cabs using conversational AI, you can set reminders, and you can do multiple other things.
Okay, fair enough. And Swapan, to you first, if you can talk about what we mean when we talk about AI.
Right.
And why is it crucial? Why is it crucial for an MSME to perhaps say, it's not just future technology, it's something that I should be looking at?
Right. So artificial intelligence is the art of machines helping do work which they can be better at than humans. So, today we live in a world where we have a lot of high-powered machines, a lot of data, and to utilize and make the most out of it, us humans to do it manually or to be able to, just bring a group of people to do it manually is becoming more tedious, and it takes a lot more time. So what artificial intelligence helps us is it helps take this data, takes the compute power to be able to make decisions faster and more intelligently than us humans. So
sure.
As we look at the future, there's going to be a lot of optimizations that happen. There'll be a lot of processes which can be optimized based on making faster decisions and more intelligent decisions based on all the information that we have. So that's where artificial intelligence really helps us, and the future is going towards making better, faster decisions to help grow your businesses, help relate to your customers, and in multiple different directions.
Okay, and the same question to you, Jesse. What exactly is blockchain? Why should MSMEs, why should small businesses be looking at it more closely?
At its essence, blockchain is a ledger, a series of debits and credits. The difference here is that in traditional banking or finance worlds or even the business world, we all keep our own ledger. You've got your ledger, I send you money, you credit me, and I debit you. And in the blockchain world, we all share the same ledger. So if I want to send you money, I just locally say, I'm sending money over here, and then it shows up on your ledger. It gets broadcast around. There are elements of it that are secured by cryptography. It's a little boring to get into that, but in essence what you have is a ledger that's maintained across multiple different parties, and it's linked, each block is linked cryptographically to sort of prove that the data beneath it has integrity. And what that does is it makes it sort of immutable, and the data is secure. So if I decide to try and go and change history and make some tampers in the ledger on my side, you guys will instantly go, you're not in consensus with us. So okay. That at its essence is really, it's just a distributed ledger that we all take part in being able to operate on. There are a number of different functions that can be used there. With MSMEs and in particular, I think what they're going to be, their influence from blockchain is really going to be behind the scenes. You know, some of the work that we've been doing, we recently announced a blockchain network that we're working with the TREDS exchanges. So they are the 3 licensed exchanges, RXIL, ATREDS, and M1, that they've been licensed by the Reserve Bank of India to provide receivables discounting for their invoices and provide it in a fair marketplace. They needed a common network to be able to communicate invoice data, but do it in such a way that it was somewhat anonymized, so that because they're all competitors, they can't share each of their supplier information. So there we implemented a blockchain solution for them to reduce fraud. So the MSME's direct result is ultimately going to be a better financing options because fraud is going to be reduced. They're not directly interacting with the blockchain. And so I think in a lot of cases you're going to see in the background blockchain deployed, and it's going to have influences on how these guys get their services and their business. But right now I don't necessarily see that MSMEs need to dive in and build their own blockchains or participate in blockchains so much as these technologies evolve, as public blockchains become more palatable to regulators like Ripple and Bitcoin and a few of the other ones that people have heard of.
All right, so fair enough. So you're saying that yes, this technology is being used across the world, but MSMEs don't necessarily need to be looking at building their own blockchain, for instance.
Exactly.
Let me pick up on that and talk about the cost of technology, because that is very important when it comes to small businesses. For companies that are saying that we don't have the funds which is required to even look at basic technology, here in India they've had to move to technology if they didn't have it because of the GST, because of the goods and services tax that has just been introduced. What's your advice to them? To say that perhaps you have a model where you're using more of cloud and therefore bringing down your costs. What is your advice? Because you have to move to these technologies, but at the same time there's the cost involved.
So I think kind of as the fellow over here pointed out, we're moving to a point where there is so much digital data out there. And it used to be, especially here in India, you just throw more bodies at the problem and have more people doing manual data entry or reconciliations. That's becoming less and less feasible. And as I think labor costs rise, ultimately as you have an emerging middle class here, it's just going to become harder and harder to source those resources. So I think the adoption of technology is going to be a must. And especially when you saw the demonetization, which happened last year, what have you, you all of a sudden saw street vendors with Paytm signs, and all of a sudden, because nobody had rupees, right? All of a sudden, everybody was paying with their phones. So I think these are instances where technology is becoming a must-have. Everyone from the local fruit vendor to the
So what level of
store.
technology depends, of course, on the kind of business that you have.
Exactly.
Right. And I think another way to also look at it is technology, and a lot of the technology that we're using is becoming democratized. So it's available a lot more freely. It's just about choosing what cost works for you versus what doesn't. So I really like to think about this as the shared economy. So even technology can be shared to help reduce costs. So with the cloud, with a lot of other technologies coming in, it's more about pay for what you use versus just, hey, buy something upfront even though you're not using most of it. So I think those kind of innovations and those kind of progresses in technology are really going to help reduce costs. And as Jesse pointed out, technology is going to become inevitable, right? So everyone will have to start using it. You just have to find the right cost structure for it.
Time for a break here on this technology masterclass. Much more on the other side though. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight we're bringing you a masterclass of sorts on the use of technology for small businesses, whether you're an SME, an MSME or an entrepreneur and want to know just how much of future technologies like AI, for instance, you should use, or what AI and blockchain are. Here's what you need to know. You were talking about the shared economy. I want to talk about regulation. Regulation, of course, is a very contentious issue, especially when it comes to innovation, when it comes to technology. A lot of businesses in the area of technology in India tell us we don't want the government involved. It has to be hands-free, hands-off. That's the only way innovation is going to be encouraged. Would the two of you, you're in this space, would you both agree?
So I deal a lot with financial services. And so we actually...
We're just talking about cryptocurrency, and that's another example of...
Yeah, but so what we've learned in working with you know, a number of institutions, compliance departments, regulators, is that cryptocurrencies are a non-starter right now. So the blockchains that we deploy don't actually have a token of value, they more have a programmatic function. But in terms of having regulation and having things defined, although that does create a barrier in some instances, I think that actually, in a country like India where things are very well defined, it actually creates a roadmap.
So I'm actually, you know, in the middle there. So I think, you know, regulations just too early or too much involvement does kind of hinder innovation. So you don't want to, you know, you don't want the government to get involved too heavily and too early. But I do see, you know, as Jesse pointed out, there are certain guidelines and standardizations that need to be brought about, especially, let's say in the AI space. You know, right now, yes, it's in the nascent stage, there's a lot of innovation coming up, but there's also a lot of potential of misuse, right? So misuse of AI can really have a lot of catastrophic effects. So, you know, how well do you define standardizations versus how much do you, you know, get involved from the government, get involved in involvement from government, is I think where the balance needs to be done. So I do believe that governments should stay hands-off, but when they see that, hey, you know, the misuse or the ease of misuse becomes really easy, that's when standardizations and regulations need to come.
But do regulation and innovation then go hand in hand?
So I would say they actually do not initially. So innovation is initially required. Let it be free form. Let people, you know, not have to think inside a box. Let them think however they want to. But after a certain point, you know, it's more about, I would say more than regulation, standardization is important and certain rules are important, but not a lot of regulations should be involved up front.
Okay, I want to talk about a global view. You, of course, are someone who's based in the US, based in New York. So you have the big picture view in terms of what's happening around the globe, perhaps. Yeah. Are Indian entrepreneurs keeping pace with innovation globally?
So it's interesting, you know, when I first started my first company in New York about 15 or 16 years ago, there was not a strong angel network of investors and what have you. Over the last, I'd say 12 some odd years, as a first wave of real sort of startup internet tech entrepreneurs have exited, that's built an ecosystem of investing, and the number of VC firms that invest at seed stage over there has multiplied greatly. I mean, it used to be you'd talk to Fred Wilson at Union Square Ventures, and if he said no, you had to go to Boston or Silicon Valley. Sure. And nowadays, there is just this proliferation of new money, tech entrepreneurs who have been successful, and where does that money go? They invest. I mean, that's where most of my, I've had more successes investing in other entrepreneurs than with my own companies at times.
Okay.
So I think that's what we're seeing in India. You've got this round of people who started Infosys, Wipro, you've got a number of VC firms that are more Western style in their investment. And then you've also got these great schools here. And so you're churning out really well-educated people, and I think that entrepreneurial spirit is really, really building here.
You raised two interesting points that you've raised. One is in terms of the high quality of manpower that's coming out. Yeah. NASSCOM, the IT industry body here in India, had said that only about 20 to 25% of all students coming out of colleges have the requisite skill sets. Yeah. What then needs to be done for these students to, you know, reach the kind of levels? Because being able, a technology like a blockchain, like an AI, like chatbots, for instance, is this something that can be taught? And if yes, does that need to be done at college levels? Can companies like yourself, entrepreneurs like yourself, perhaps then hold these courses? What are the opportunities there?
So I look at it as a two-part problem. Yeah. One is, I think, a cultural effect, right? So I think to get into innovation, to get into entrepreneurship, to be able to take those risks, I think there's a cultural effect there where, you know, as Jesse was saying, you know, once you start seeing successes in the industry, once you start seeing money being poured in, it becomes, you know, it creates that safety net or that cultural awareness for people to try to take more risks. So I think one is the cultural, education that needs to come about, that, you know, entrepreneurship is, you know, even though it's risky, has its benefits, you know, how to make the well-educated risks, when to take risks in your life. I think there's one which is cultural education that needs to come about and is starting to come about in India a lot about now because we've seen a few successes. I think on the other side, education systems, if you go to look at it, have been around for, decades and centuries around. And, we have to look about how we change them a little bit so that we prepare the next generation of people coming into the industry to be prepared for it.
Jesse, you were previously, naming Infosys and Wipro, for instance.
Yeah.
I do remember a few years ago when they spoke about aggressively introducing AI. There was some bit of concern that perhaps jobs will take a hit. Jobs will come at the cost of introducing these future technologies. I would like for both of you to respond on that. Is it always an either or?
Well, I think with most of these technologies, and this has been a theme I think for the last year or so, is social responsibility of these large companies that introduce automation. If you're displacing jobs, what are we going to do with these workers? I think whether it be AI or whether it be blockchain, which reduces back office processes, it does reduce that the need for human bodies and resources. But I think what we like to see is a lifting of society, so that if we're replacing people, we're retraining them to do something else. I think that's really the key part here, is if you're going to unleash a technology on the world that's going to displace a certain workforce, we have a responsibility to figure out how that workforce can be taken care of. In my viewpoint, that's I think very key.
Okay.
Yeah, there's actually a very interesting study there on this topic. So, there was this one case study done where a pathologist trying to identify breast cancer cells can do it accurately 96% of the time without the help of AI. And if AI was to do it by itself, it does it 92% accurately without the help of humans. But humans and AI working together can do it 100% of the time. So, I really think about this topic is, I think the future is more about human and machine collaboration. And, as Jesse said, it will require reskilling of some of our experiences and reskilling of human resources. But the future, I do believe, is not about displacing jobs, but about how we can coexist and make a better society and a better place to live in.
Gentlemen, I'm going to take closing comments. Both of you are very closely involved with what small businesses do, whether it's in India or in your case globally as well. Looking at the Indian market, if you say that in the next, say, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, this is going to be the biggest opportunity when we are talking about future technologies, when we're talking AI, VR, blockchain, what would that be?
So specifically to my industry around blockchain, we're very much in the early stages. As you said, a lot of this stuff is still being sort of dreamed up as it's being deployed. But these platforms, these networks, are communal by nature. They're not meant to be closed networks that one participant controls. So you've got opportunity there to, once these networks start to be deployed more broadly, and they're built on industry standard, typically open source protocols and technologies, you're going to have a platform much like the internet when it was introduced, where people can build on top of it. We're going to see services that are novel, that are outside of financial services, in healthcare, in a number of different areas, that can leverage blockchain technology. And instead of even going to the cloud now, which has brought down our costs greatly, you're going to have a platform that's just run and it's secured by whether it's the compensation protocols on the network or what have you. But it's almost even a further democratization of a digital world that we're going to see. So I think it's exciting once these platforms are deployed and there's standardization and there's a regulatory understanding as to what can be done and what should be done. We're going to see a whole slew of, I think, Indian entrepreneurs and global entrepreneurs building interesting things that we haven't even thought of yet.
Okay.
In terms of AI, so, artificial intelligence is becoming a lot more democratized. It's available a lot more easily, and, the skill sets required are becoming easier to attain to be able to develop artificial intelligence. And I think the effect of artificial intelligence will span multiple industries, will span multiple different use cases. I think the one important thing, as a closing comment, the way I like to look at it is, let's not use technology for technology's sake. We should first try to find the use case, try to find the market, and actually see how it's going to influence our community, how it's going to influence our country or the world in general, and really find an impactful way to be able to derive value out of it rather than just using it because it's the latest technology. So it's important to identify a use case, identify the business opportunity, and then go about finding the solution and how deploying it rather than the other way around.
All right. Thank you both very much coming, talking to our viewers about, and helping them really decode and understand some of these future technologies. Thank you both for your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, that's our show tonight. We trust we've been able to break down some of these concepts and terms for you, the entrepreneur. If you have any thoughts or any feedback, or you want more such masterclasses, here's how you let us know. leadersoftomorrow@timesgroup.com is our email ID. On social media, tweet at me at Sunanda_J or LOT_ET now. Our Facebook page is Leaders of Tomorrow on ET Now. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.